Hi class, I'm your instructor for Criminal Law Book 2, Attorney Scarlett Choi and Coopera. So I will be discussing the provisions of the revised penal code and also some special laws in connection with the provisions of the revised penal code. So this is the revised penal code, guys. If you uh, haven't seen it yet, this is how it looks like. So this is a new one, the 2016 edition. But there's a 2020 edition. But nevertheless, same naman ang contents. So Criminal Law Book 2. Criminal Law Book 2 has the crimes, in the revised penal code has 14 titles. So the first is crimes against national security and the laws of nations. That is what we will be discussing today. And also Title 2, crimes against the fundamental laws of the state. Title 3, crimes against public order. Title 4, crimes against public interest. Title 5, crimes relative to opium and other prohibited drugs. But this is overruled already by our um, special law, which I will be discussed later on. Then Title 6, crimes against public morals. Title 7, crimes committed by public officers. Title 8, crimes against persons. Title 9, crimes against personal liberty and security. Title 10, crimes against property. Title 11, crimes against chastity. Title 12, crimes against the civil status of persons. Title 13, crimes against honor. And Title 14, criminal negligence. So Title 5, as I said before, this was already repealed by the Dangerous Drugs Act. So, yes. Okay. So we will be discussing, for this module, we will be discussing crimes, Title 1, which is crimes against national security and the law of nations. Okay. Crimes against national security and the law of nations. Crimes against national security, what are the crimes that are against national security? There are four. First is treason, that's Article 114. Second, conspiracy and proposal to commit treason, Article 115. Misprision of treason, Article 116. And espionage, Article 117. The next set of crimes under this title is crimes against the law of nations. So what are the crimes included here? Inciting to war or giving motives for reprisals, Article 118. Violation of neutrality, Article 119. Corresponding with hostile country, Article 120. Flight to enemy's country, Article 121, and piracy in general and mutiny on the high seas, Article 122. So if you notice, most of the crimes that are committed against this title are crimes that can be committed in times of war. So the only ones that are not committed in times of war or in times of peace are espionage under Article 114 and inciting to war or giving motives for reprisals, Article 118, and violation of neutrality, Article 119. So let's start off with So the crimes under this title can be prosecuted even if the criminal act or acts were committed outside of the territorial jurisdiction. So we learned in our criminal law 1, if you can remember, what What characteristic of criminal law are we referring to here? What kind of principle? The principle of territoriality, right? That crimes, only those crimes committed within the Philippine territory may be prosecuted in the Philippine territory. But this is the exception. The crimes against national security and the law of nations is an exception to that specific rule, okay? However, prosecution can proceed only if the offender is within Philippine territory or brought to the Philippines pursuant to an extradition treaty. So, even though the acts are committed outside of the Philippines, they may be prosecuted here in the Philippines, okay? Wala nag-apply ang principle of territoriality. But they should be within Philippine territory for them to be prosecuted here. Or kung ara sila sagwa, dapat i-extradite sila to this country para diri sila i-try sa Philippine courts. Okay? So that's just the meaning of that. In case of crimes against law of nations, the offender can be prosecuted whenever, wherever, this is wherever he may be found, because such crimes are regarded as committed against humanity in general. So crimes against law of nations, pwede sila iskandiin sila, madakpan dito sila i-prosecute. Okay, so they can be tried under the laws of another country. Okay. First crime under this title is treason. So, sino pwede maging offender or sino pwede ka-commit sa treason? So, he may be Filipino or an alien. Dapat there is war. So, if wala war, wala sang ginatawag na treason. And the offender levies war against the government and adheres to the enemies, giving them aid, comfort within the Philippines or elsewhere. Okay, so most of the crimes that you will see here are, as I said, committed during the war. So kung wala war, these crimes does not apply. This is why this title is not very popular, okay? So, gamay lang makasuhan sa treason, sa mga amuni, kagamoto, because at this time, we are not in a time of war, okay? So, requirements of levying war, actual assembly of men, dapat nag-assemble sila to execute treasonable design by force. Intent is to deliver the country in whole or in part to the enemy. Collaboration with a foreign enemy or some foreign sovereign. So 2 ways to prove treason: testimony of at least 2 witnesses to the overt act of above stated, any of the overt acts nga mga you're trying to and try ka mag-traidor sa country mo, okay? And a confession of the accused in open court. So, those are the 2 ways in which you can prove treason. So, the second crime under this title is conspiracy and proposal to commit treason. So, not just kung treason, it's already a committed act. When we say conspiracy, it is still just a conspiracy. Okay, kung natabo ng treason, so you will charge him of treason. Kung wala pa natabo, it's either conspiracy or proposal. So what's the difference between conspiracy and proposal? So if you notice, elements 1 and 2 are the same. So the in conspiracy, they decide to commit it. So all of them are in agreement that they will commit treason, okay? As for the proposal, the person lang nga nag-propose sa pag-execute sang treason. So, like for example, ako lang nag-propose, tapos ang ginahambalan ko, hindi man sila mag-execute ng treason. So, I will be charged of proposal to commit treason. But if ang gin-proposan ko, we all agree together to commit treason, then all of us will be liable for conspiracy to commit treason. Understood? Okay, so the third crime under this title is misprision of treason. So this is the crime under revised penal code that you can be charged without doing anything. Okay, without it's not an actual act; it is an omission. Okay, so the offender owes allegiance to the government and not a foreigner. So dapat he must be a Filipino. So may knowledge siya sa conspiracy to commit treason against the government, but then he did not speak about it. So this is why I said nga, wala ka man ginobra, nag-keep ka lang sa mouth mo, you kept your mouth shut, kumbaga. So you did not disclose or make known the conspiracy to commit treason. So if you do that, if you have the knowledge and then you kept silent, you may be charged of misprision of treason. Okay. The next crime is espionage. Espionage is, in simple terms, pag-espiya, pagiging spy, okay? Acts punished here are entering without authority, therefore, a warship, fort, or naval or military establishment or reservation to obtain any information, plans, photograph, and other data of a confidential nature relative to the defense of the Philippines. So, pag sulod mo pa lang dito nga, without unauthorized na pagsulod sa isa ka warship, fort, naval, or military establishment. Okay? And by disclosing by disclosing to the representative of a foreign nation the contents of the article's data information referred to in paragraph 1 of the article 117. So, kung ginhambal mo, if you disclose the article's data or information referred to by the first paragraph. Kung ara ka man sa kung ara man ini sa imo possession by reason of your public office. So for example, isa ka man ka military and then you disclosed it, di ba authorized ka mag-enter sa lugar, but then you disclose it to an enemy nation. So that's espionage. There's a special law, Commonwealth Act number 616, an act to punish espionage and other offenses against national security. So, para maging stronger, kumbaga. Ang aton law against spying, for us to better protect our nation, may ara sang Commonwealth Act ngagin pasar. So, you're being punished if you commit either of the following. First, unlawful obtaining or permitting to be obtained information affecting national defense, unlawful disclosing of the information affecting national defense. Third, disloyal acts or words in times of peace. Fourth, disloyal acts or words in times of war. Fifth, conspiracy to violate preceding sections, and harboring or concealing violators of law. So when you say violators of law, violators of laws on national security. Okay. So the next crime under this title is Article 118, inciting to war or giving motives for reprisal. So this is already a crime against the law of nations. Crimes against law of nations starts here. Okay? Elements, offenders, performs unlawful or unauthorized acts. The acts provoke or give occasion for a war involving or liable to involve the Philippines. Exposure of Filipino citizens to reprisals on their persons or property. So if you say something against a foreign nation, that will trigger war against that country. So that is inciting to war. If you incite, I mean, if you not just simple saying, ano. So, kung nagapanghangkat ka sa war sa other nations, uh, you are committing this crime, okay? Because you, or not just inciting, but also giving motives for reprisals. So if you endanger the country or the all of the Filipino citizens because of your actions or your actuations, then you are committing this crime. Article 119, violation of neutrality. Elements, there is a war. So this is another crime that is committed during a war. As I said, ang inciting to kaginaya, wala pa war, di ba? So ginagapanghangkat kasang war. So violation of neutrality, there is a war, and then there is a regulation issued by a competent authority to enforce neutrality. So may war nga hindi involved ang Philippines. So this is the most important thing. May war nga hindi involved ang Philippines. Though duwa ka countries, for example, ang China kag ang US, may war sila nga duwa. And then the competent authority, for example, the president says, we will not join that war. We will be neutral. And then nag-violate ka sa neutrality, then you are an offender of this crime. Article 120, correspondence with hostile country. So correspondence with hostile country. So how can you commit this? First element, it is in the time of war in which the Philippines is involved. The offender, bali involved ang Philippines, may war nga. Isa ka country nga involved is the Philippines. So the offender makes correspondence with an enemy country or territory occupied by enemy troops. So when we say correspondence, istoryahanay, okay? So pwede by letters, phones, other means of communication. So communicating with a hostile country. So correspondence is either prohibited by the government, carried on by ciphers or conventional signs, containing notice or information which may be useful to the enemy. So dapat na prohibit siya sa government. Article 121, flight to enemy's country. Elements, there is a war in which the Philippines is involved. Offender must be owing allegiance to the government, so he must be at least a Filipino citizen or a foreigner that pledged allegiance to the Philippines. Offender attempts to flee or go to enemy country, makadto sayo sa pihak nga kampo. Iaway makadto sayo sa pihak nga kampo. So going to the enemy country is prohibited by competent authorities. So it must be prohibited by, for example, the government. Piracy in general and mutiny in the high seas or Philippine waters. So this is a crime against humanity, piracy and mutiny. So acts punished as piracy, pamimirata. Hindi na siya pamimirata nga pag Ano ha, sa mga fake na DVDs, no, that's not this kind of piracy. Piracy here is an attack or seizing a vessel on the high seas or in Philippine waters. Seizing in the vessel while in the high seas or in the Philippine waters, the whole or its part of its cargo, its equipment, or personal belongings of its complement or passengers. So elements of piracy, I forgot to tell you, when we say elements, guys, these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 must be complete. If one element is missing, if an element of a crime is missing, then there's no crime. Okay, so the crime is not complete if one element is missing. Okay. Elements of piracy, the vessel is on the high seas or Philippine waters. So, dapat nagalayag siya sa, um, ano, sa karagatan. Okay? Offenders are neither members of its complement nor passengers of the vessel. So, sagwa. When we say piracy, halin sagwa. So, mga pirata, halin sa lain nga barko, nagsaka sa barko ang gusto nila i-pirate, okay? Offenders either gin-attack nila, gin-seize nilang vessel, or seize in the vessel while in the high seas or in the Philippine waters, the whole or part of its cargo, its equipment, or personal belongings of its complement and passengers. And fourth, there must be intent to gain. Dapat, ang purpose sa mga pirata is to gain. Kumita, kumbaga, sa pagkuha nila sa barko, sa pagkuha nila sa part sa mga cargoes or mga gamit nila sa dagat. Elements of mutiny. What's the difference of mutiny sa piracy? We will figure out later on. So, elements of mutiny, this is different from piracy. Mutiny, the vessel is on the high seas or Philippine waters, and the offenders are either member of its complement or passengers of the vessel. So the distinction lies in element number 2. The offender, kagina, sa piracy, the offender are neither, di ba? Hindi members ng complement or passenger of the vessel. Here in mutiny, the offenders are either members of its complement or passengers in the vessel. So when we say piracy, the force is from the outside going in. But mutiny, the force is from the inside. It's either its complements or passengers. Okay? Offenders either attack or seize the vessel, seize the whole or part of the cargo, its equipment, or personal belongings of the crew or passengers. So mutiny is unlawful resistance to a superior officer, a raising of commotions and disturbances aboard a ship against the authority of its commander. So resist ka sa senior officer or for example sa kapitan, mga muna. Distinction between mutiny and piracy. As to the offenders, as I said earlier, mutiny is committed by members of the complement or the passengers of the vessel. Piracy, on the other hand, is committed by persons who are not members of the complement or passengers of the vessel. So the force is from the outside. As to criminal intent, in mutiny, there is no criminal intent. So the purpose is for uprising, for instance, or resistance of a superior officer. In piracy, on the other hand, there is a criminal intent, which is to gain. Okay, so piracy, how can piracy be qualified? Parehas lang ila elements. If you notice, guys, the elements of qualified piracy and piracy is similar. elements 1, 2, 3 nila is similar. But then again, it's qualified, nagdugang, nagtaas, kumbaga, because of the presence of the following circumstances. So, whenever they have seized the vessel by boarding or firing upon the same. So, kung nagsaka sila, kag nagpalupok or nagpalupok sila, then that is qualified piracy. Pero kung they committed it, kung kung nangawat sila from the outside, then that is not, that's just simple piracy. But then kung nagsaka sila, nagboard, kumbaga sila sa vessel, tapos nag-fire sila sa vessel, and that is qualified. Also, when they abandon their victims without means of saving themselves. Kung ginbili nila ang mga biktima without means of saving themselves. So, kung ginbili nila to para mag-starve, magutom, nga sure na gid nga mapatay ang mga victims nila, then that is qualified, di ba? Wala man lang salbabida, wala man lang raft, or other floating devices nga ginbilin ang mga pirata kung ginkuha nila pati atong mga raft kag mga floating devices, then the piracy becomes qualified. When the crime is accompanied by murder, homicide, physical injuries, or rape. So if hindi lang nag-ano sila, but namatay pagid sila, piracy is in simple term do pangawat. Pero natabo lang siya sa high seas, di ba? Sa dagat siya natabo, sa karagatan. But then if it is accompanied by murder, homicide, physical injuries, or rape, then it becomes qualified. Ano naman yung ginatawag na hijacking? Kung ang piracy nagkatabo sa dagat, ang hijacking nagkatabo naman niya sa himpapawid. Wow, himpapawid dalom ba? Anti-hijacking is another kind of piracy. Pamimirata man siya, but it is committed in an aircraft. So in other countries, this crime is known as aircraft piracy. But in our country, in our laws, it is called hijacking. Okay? So, may ara ako the exercise sa modules ko that is about hijacking. So, you read the module, medyo 1 page or 2 pages about sa anti-hijacking law. So, gin-exercise ko siya because I just want you to read and understand the explanation. So, that is very self-explanatory. If you have any questions, you ask me lang, guys. Okay? So, this is our first lecture. Yay! I hope you learned something from this lecture, and thank you so much for spending your time watching this lecture, also your money through load for listening to my voice. I hope you learned something, and you guys keep safe and eat well so that you will be healthy. We're healthy kita tanan, and you stay at home so that malayo kita sa COVID, okay? See you guys on Saturday or probably next Saturday. I'll just update you sa aton nga Facebook group, okay? Sige. Bye-bye.